This is Zach Freeman of the Family Policy Institute of Washington. Planned Parenthood's attorneys have filed a federal lawsuit against myself and pro-life activist David Daleiden. You may know Mr. Daleiden from the undercover videos that appeared to show Planned Parenthood's executives and doctors discussing, nonchalantly, the programs they had in place to receive compensation for the remains of aborted babies. Following the release of these videos, 44 members of Washington's legislature asked our Attorney General Bob Ferguson to conduct a review of the abortion giant's actions in Washington state, just to be sure that they were compliant with state and federal law. After a few months, the Attorney General sent out a press release and a memorandum outlining his investigation, scolding legislators for attacking Planned Parenthood and accusing them of diverting attention away from the services Planned Parenthood provides in the name of healthcare. But we were curious. After such a strong statement of rebuke from the Attorney General, what exactly had he seen that compelled him to exonerate Planned Parenthood entirely? In December of 2015, we filed a public records request seeking all of the information from his investigation, including communications between the Attorney General's office and outside groups such as Planned Parenthood and the University of Washington's Birth Defects Research Laboratory, the only lab that we know receives fetal remains for research in Washington. We got the records, and what we found was troubling. After reviewing the records, it appeared that the central piece of evidence used to determine that Planned Parenthood had done nothing wrong was, in fact, a signed affidavit from Planned Parenthood's CEO stating that the organization was fully compliant with law. So we decided to look for ourselves to see what evidence exonerated Planned Parenthood. When we investigated the Attorney General's investigation, we found some interesting conversations. In particular, a conversation between Paige Dietrich, the Deputy Attorney General in charge of the investigation for the Attorney General's office, and Ian Goodhue, the Government Liaisons Director for the University of Washington. In it, Dietrich asked Goodhue for copies of the contracts that they had previously discussed on the phone. Goodhue responded to Dietrich, "Can I just clarify that you will hold these as confidential and not share with anyone without consent?" Dietrich's response was clear. "I don't think we'll need copies of the agreements." Maybe the Attorney General's investigation didn't care to see the details of their agreements, but under the circumstances, we did. That's why I filed a public records request in February with the University of Washington, seeking to obtain these records that the Attorney General's office had declined to examine during their review of Planned Parenthood. After extending the deadline to disclose documents to me 3 times, this lawsuit was filed asking the court to prohibit the University of Washington from turning over records that were requested, and by all accounts, we are lawfully entitled to. The lawsuit claims that these plaintiffs, all current or former employees of organizations working with the Birth Defects Research Lab, fear for their lives. We don't know the nature of those contracts between the University of Washington and Planned Parenthood, and we don't know if anything illegal was even happening. But when people respond to public records requests with lawsuits seeking to withhold information from the public, it certainly doesn't make us less curious. If there isn't anything to hide, why not just turn the records over? Obviously, we aren't interested in harming anyone. Quite the opposite. All we want is the truth. It's just possible that we're onto something. For the Family Policy Institute, I'm Zach Freeman.